Fewer than 10% of pilots and aircraft mechanics are women. These are their stories of tenacity, adventure, and courage. Stories with the power to inspire, heal, and connect. Welcome to the Literary Aviatrix community, where we leverage the power of story to build and celebrate our community and inspire the next generation of aviation.
Hi, I'm Katherine Lin Pico, author of My Flight Suit Pocket, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone who was a part of making this project a reality and to recognize every female aviator out there. By showing up and doing your job, you are inspiring the next generation of female aviators. Let's fill the skies.
Hello, happy Girls in Aviation Day. My name is Sarah Doran. I'm an author and Army veteran. I served in the Army from 2007 to 2013 as a Blackhawk helicopter mechanic and crew chief. And I wanted to tell you a short story about one of the things I remember from my time in the service. My unit was deployed to Iraq in 2009 and 2010. And I had the opportunity to fly missions over Baghdad. And I remember flying over the people and the city, something that, a place that I had never been to, people that I had never met, and watching children play in conditions that were less than ideal, and remembering that I wasn't there for myself, I was there for my country, and I was there for this community of people that we were wanting to support and make a positive difference for. So thinking back on that time, I recognized that I felt very empowered by the work that we were doing and knew that what I was doing was making a difference. And so anybody considering, any girls out there considering aviation as a career field or just an interest that you might have, women have a place in aviation, and you can make a positive difference in the lives of people all over the world. So go for it.
Hi everyone, this is Erin, Mariah Murphy, and my pup Dexter. I am a 787 first officer for United Airlines, and I would like to share about my journey to getting to the position I'm at today. So I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania. I fell in love with flying at 14 years old at air shows, and my father ended up finding an instructor for me. My family did not have a lot of financial means, so the financial burden was on my shoulders for sure as a civilian pilot. However, where there's a will, there's a way, right? And the best tools my parents gave me was being resourceful. So I ended up babysitting and saving my money to purchase my flight lessons once a month between 14 and 15 years old. Around 16 years old, I learned about the Aviation Challenge portion of the space camp programs in Huntsville, Alabama, and in Florida. So I participated in Huntsville. I wrote up a letter about myself and distributed it to my community and raised the funds through my babysitting and my fundraiser to get myself to space camp. So I did a little bit of flying in space camp and got to learn about all things space, which was great. I came home and then I was ready for solo. So at 16 years old is the youngest age you can solo an aircraft alone after receiving the allotted hours of instruction. And once I did that, I did a few solo cross countries, but I knew I wanted to pursue it in college. So I went to an aviation school called Daniel Webster College. It's in southern New Hampshire, north of Boston. It is now called Southern New Hampshire University, but at the time I went there, they had a very unique program. I got to learn and then eventually graduate and instruct in both aerobatic Cap 10B aircraft and a motor glider that is produced in Germany, the Grobe 109GB. So I loved the variety of that, and the variety of aviation is really what speaks to me. So I was never on a fast track to get to the airlines, despite what I look like today. I dabbled in corporate flying a Pilatus PC-12, single engine piston, corporate private company. And then I flew smaller airline in Cape Cod, Massachusetts called Cape Air Nantucket Airlines, passengers and freight. Then I started to get a little bit more serious about my airline career, and I decided to build my flight time at a regional airline flying at Embraer 145. That airline was called Chautauqua Airlines and is now called Republic Airlines. And then after I had my time in there, I started to apply to Continental Airlines in 2006, and I got hired there, where I flew the 737 out of Houston to Mexico, South and Central America, Latin America, and the West Coast, sometimes up to Alaska. And then I moved to Newark, New Jersey, and then changed aircraft to the 757, 767, where I flew primarily to Western Europe. I now am a 787 first officer doing long haul flights. So long haul flights are the longest length flights that airliners can do. So I'm going to places like India, Israel, South Africa, Japan, and I love the variety. We do a little bit of Western Europe too. I've been to Portugal, to Sweden, and to Germany. So what I would like to share with you today is, if you feel limited in your resources, I hear you. I've been there. I've had not a lot of financial means. My parents were fabulous and supportive. However, we had no idea what we were doing. So if you're listening to this today, I think it's great, because there's someone in your life that is guiding you. And that's exactly what I feel young people need, is a little bit of encouragement. If you can see it, you can be it. And now one story I would like to share that I think you all might relate to with this age group. So picture me, I was 14 years old on a flight instruction lesson. So I'm with my flight instructor. We're at a control tower airport, which means we are talking to the air traffic controllers. And I had a misunderstanding in my head, or I needed to clarify the air traffic controllers' instructions as it pertained to how we were going to enter the flight pattern to come in for a landing. And so the instructor nodded to me and said, go ahead and pose your question. So I keyed the mic on the radio and I asked. And the control tower confirmed what I had stated, that I was correct. My understanding was correct. And he did so by saying, yes, ma'am. And in the moment, it can maybe sound funny calling a 14-year-old young lady a ma'am. But how I received it was, he's treating me as a professional, as he would any other pilot, any other woman pilot out here. And I immediately flipped my head to my instructor, and he too gave me a nod of reassurance and good job confirming the instructions, and you got the answer that you wanted. So I encourage you to surround yourself by those people. You will not always be surrounded by those people, but the majority of the people are going to support and foster your desires for aviation. And the very last thing I want to say is that I also am an author, and that is how I got to know Katherine Hamlin today. And I would very much like to give a shout out and a thank you to her for facilitating the invitation for me to share with you today. Her and I know each other through the author book world and all things aviation and author. If you haven't checked out her books, I highly recommend you do so. And I write about the role that aviation has in animal adoptions. And here is Dexter's book, and then I also have one featuring my Zeke. So if you're not interested in flying per se, there are so many genres such as writing that you can get into. People write articles for aviation, and so much more. So I encourage you to check out all things books, and Katherine can be your lead on that. Have a great Girls in Aviation Day. I appreciate all of you, and good luck on your path.
Hi, my name is Kodey Bogart, and I'm a combat decorated veteran who flew the UH-60 Blackhawk during medical evacuation missions while in the United States Army. I have spent many years soaring through the skies, and today I'm here to share a special story with you. As a pilot, I have experienced many incredible moments. I loved to serve our country. But recently, one of the most rewarding things has been creating the Helo Girls book series. It all started with a desire to inspire young minds, especially girls, to dream big and take flight, just as I did. My first book, The Firefighting Pilot, tells the story of a girl who discovers her passion for flying helicopters and battling wildfires. The mission demonstrates the importance of communication, coordination, and decision-making in firefighting. The story not only showcases the thrilling aspects of firefighting, but also introduces young readers to the principles of bravery, teamwork, and community service. The realistic portrayal of a firefighting mission provides an educational and engaging experience for children, fostering an appreciation for the efforts of those who work to protect our lives and property. The story isn't just about flying. It's about making safety-driven decisions and understanding that you can achieve anything you set your mind to. These are values I learned during my time in the military, and they are values I want to pass on to the next generation through Helo Girls. Every page of this book is filled with adventure and learning and the spirit of never giving up. Whether you dream of flying, firefighting, or any other adventure, I hope the Firefighting Pilot inspires you to pursue your passions with courage and confidence. So if you're looking for a story that will ignite your imagination and inspire you to reach for the skies, check out the Firefighting Pilots and the Helo Girls series. Let's inspire the next generation of aviators together. Fly high and dream big. You can find out more about the Helo Girls series at www.helogirls.com. Thank you, and remember, the sky is not the limit. Happy reading.
Hi, my name is Caroline Jensen. I am a Lieutenant Colonel retired from the United States Air Force, and I go by my call sign Blaze, which is a name that was given to me in my fighter squadron as a fighter pilot, which was my main job in the United States Air Force. I flew over 3,500 hours in the T-38 as an instructor pilot in pilot training, and also quite a few hours in the F-16. I got to do really cool missions in the F-16, like flying as an aggressor pilot in Las Vegas at Nellis Air Force Base. I got to fly in Iraq with the 4th Fighter Squadron out of Hill Air Force Base. And one of the coolest assignments that people love to hear about was flying the right wing position for the United States Air Force Thunderbirds. When I decided I wanted to be a fighter pilot, it was 1986 when the first Top Gun movie came out, and there were no women pilots in the movie, but I really wanted to be like Maverick and not like Charlie, who is the female lead in that movie. And I harnessed the inspiration from the World War II women Air Force service pilots to work and set goals for myself, hoping that the laws would change and allow women to fly in combat. And my senior year in high school, guess what happened? The rules did change. And so I got to be amongst some of the first women to fly fighters in combat. But before all of that happened, I had worked really hard to get into the United States Air Force Academy. Their acceptance rate is extremely low. It's very, very competitive to get in there, and it's a very difficult school to go through, and it's extremely engineering STEM based. So I was fortunate enough, I got accepted to the Air Force Academy, and I quickly found out my first year that I struggled academically. And I gave it 110%, probably 210%. I passed all my classes, but it was close on a couple of them, and I had a 2.2 grade point average my first year. And I had been, like almost a 4.0 student in high school. So after giving all this effort, and I was only 1 year into my experience, I was really questioning myself, questioning my goals. I was working so hard to be there, and I was scared. I had 3 more years of this maximum effort to get through, and really wondering why I was there and kind of second guessing, why did I set this as a goal for myself? And I was looking down at the ground as I was walking across the campus when I was startled, and I looked up, and what I saw was an F-16 raging overhead, and it was flying right between the Air Force Academy Chapel in Colorado Springs and the Front Range Mountains there. And it was like a lightning bolt hit me right there, and I was like, that's why I'm here, just for the opportunity to fly a fighter aircraft someday. And, this is my chance, and they're going to have to kick me out. I'm not going to quit. So fast forward later, I got selected to fly for the United States Air Force Thunderbirds. And when we arrived for the graduation show, we always stay airborne, and we look at all the different ground references and see where everything is. And the wingman, I was the right wing, so we held high and waited while everyone else ran their lines for where they are in the show. And then when I dropped down to fly where I do my low bombers lines, guess who was flying between the chapel and the Front Range. It was me. And I hope that that day I inspired someone else to keep going, someone who's having a hard time. This is a difficult industry and the stakes are high, but it's very rewarding. And if this is something you're thinking about, I encourage you to go into aviation full steam ahead and work as hard as you can. And I promise you that hard work will be worth it.
Hi, my name is Liz Booker. I'm a retired Coast Guard helicopter pilot and a writer. I knew when I was 5 years old that I wanted to be a pilot, and while my parents weren't in aviation, they were very supportive. We lived in the Houston, Texas area where I got to go for my first discovery flight for my 11th birthday, and I started out high school at a magnet school for aviation where I was also involved in the Navy Junior ROTC program. We ended up moving in the middle of my sophomore year for my mom's job, and things took some detours that led me to enlist in the Coast Guard when I was 18. As soon as I joined, I figured out what the requirements were to become an officer so that I could hopefully compete for an opportunity to go to Navy Flight School, which is where the Coast Guard sends its pilots for flight training. I earned my wings of gold when I was 26 years old and went on to fly the H-65 Dolphin helicopter on search and rescue and law enforcement missions out of San Francisco, from Miami and around the Caribbean, and from Los Angeles and around the Eastern Pacific. Flying the H-65 was really fun, and a couple of my favorite things to do were to hover with small boats and practice our hoist training, and to land on the backs of ships. Both of these evolutions required a lot of skill and precision as a pilot, great teamwork with the boat crew and the air crew, and they prepared me for the times when I had the privilege of helping people who were in distress on the sea. During my 28-year career, I had the opportunity to do many other things as well. I earned a master's degree from Harvard University and worked as a foreign diplomat at the U.S. Embassy in Barbados, as the senior U.S. military representative to the U.S. ambassador, and to the chiefs of police and defense for 7 island nations. One of the things that I knew I wanted to do when I retired was to help inspire young women to join us in aviation. I earned a second master's degree of fine arts in writing so that I can write novels that feature girls who learn how to fly. While I work on those stories, I also promote books that feature women in aviation as Literary Aviatrix. There are over 600 books on the market in all genres for all ages that feature women in aviation, and you can find them on my website, literaryaviatrix.com. I also have the chance to be inspired by talking to the authors, and you can listen to some of those interviews on my website or on YouTube or podcast. I also support Women in Aviation International in their efforts to promote women and girls in aviation, and Girls in Aviation Day is one of my favorite events of the year. I hope you're inspired to learn more about our field today because we look forward to flying with you.